Alright y'all, welcome back to vlog number 2. Alright, we're gonna run over basically the start of prep. So we are officially 2 weeks in to prep, and there have been a lot of changes, a lot of like woos, a lot of learning lessons. And that happens every single prep. I find that every single prep there's always something that in a lot of other people's eyes it like goes wrong, but I view them as learning lessons, and they change prep to prep to prep. And so we're going through kind of what some of those were for the last couple weeks. But starting out with, I had my last cheat meal last Friday. So that was after a week of prep. I was about like 11 weeks out, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. I did my 2 burgers and I did my 2 fries. But when I say 2 fries, it's usually like a regular person's amount, and I put 2 of those together. So I just get like a Five Guys small and sprinkle a little bit of the other fries in the mix. But I already knew like once you kind of let some fries, if you're like a food connoisseur, you know what fries are gonna last a certain amount of heat ratio. By the time you get back to the house, you kind of just weigh out like, all right, I know these last for about a good 10 minutes. By the time I get done eating my burgers, so those fries gonna be hot. So I kind of strategize like that in terms of how I pick up the food, in which order, and what I'm actually getting. So key thing for me is whenever I have cheat meals like that, I know they're probably gonna be my last ones, I make sure that I don't really experiment. I get things that I know are absolutely going to be good, so that way it gets me through like the end. You don't want to have any wasted calories, because what's the fun in that? So anyway, I went to Red Robin, which is my favorite place, one of my favorite burger places, and it's pretty close, so it was great. And I had me some fabulous donuts, and I packed the rest of those up for my friends and my family so they can have those. So pretty much when I do my cheat meals, they're just kind of like I have my base guidelines. My base guideline I made, well, my coach technically made it, but we did it probably like 5 years ago. We found that like for me, like if I'm having a cheat meal, it actually has to serve a purpose. So like if I'm eating, like some people do a burger and a fry. That don't work for me. It has to be a minimum of 2 burgers and 2 fries, or like 2 entrees. That's my baseline. Otherwise, like it causes me to be like severely hungry and kind of just like blah, and I don't like that. So like we've decided that that's my baseline, because I remember back in the day I was like, all right, yo, I'm still like hungry. And my coach was like, well, why don't you just get another burger? And I'm like, say less. And so I did that, and we found out I was able to continue losing weight doing that version. So we just stuck with it, and that has been my baseline. So when I make changes, like, all right, I want to do pancakes or I want to do omelets, I just make sure it's kind of quantitatively a similar amount of food, so that way I'm able to kind of keep everything pretty similar week to week. Now, the question is, like, how did I get to keep my cheeks this long? Now, my preps, my coach and I have been together almost 9 years now in December. So every single prep, like I said, has been very, very different. There have been preps where I've had cheat meals the week before the Olympia. I've had cheat meals every single week leading into Olympia, up to 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It just always changes depending on which look we're bringing and what the starting point is. So there's never really a set in stone, like, all right, we're pulling cheat meals at this point. I never know when the cheat meal is going to be pulled until my coach says, all right, we're going to pull these bad boys. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. So I think the biggest difference this year was kind of my food restraint, which I've worked really well on the last 2 years. And a lot of it is due to my husband, because he likes food, but he's by no means like a foodie like me. So for me, I'm one of those people who cannot be influenced to do anything and cannot be peer pressured to do anything. So if I make a change, it's always something I know I made a decision to do. So for my husband, I'm like, all right, he don't really care about food like that. I was like, I could eat less. Like, did I really need to eat that extra order of fries, or did I really need to eat that extra donut? I'm like, I was actually good at this point. And so what I started to do was hone in on where I actually felt my best at, where it was like borderline, and when it was over. So for the last year, I never went over. And so I think that was the big determining factor of why I've been able to keep my cheeks in this long towards this part of my career. Because like I said, the cheat meals all the time was years ago. Last couple times we pulled them out a little bit more, just because we wanted a little bit more of a crisp look, a little bit leaner look. And again, when you're trying to do things how I do things in terms of trying to get better, and kind of just the version of preps that I do, you got to find all of the things that are within your control that you can change naturally that will get you better in the following years. And so I found that that has been a big difference. And so like I said, what that looks like is like, okay, if we're going to get burgers and fries, I'm getting 2 burgers and a fry. I might be able to get like a hot dog and throw that in there. If it's a small portion, I might be able to throw that in there and kind of go from there. But it really just depends on what the meal is. But even for this last prep, I've been obsessed with just having one of my favorite cheat meals, which is hot wings and a big old salad. Now, Georgia's isn't really the best salad place because they're very much, you know, Georgia's a place where you go and everybody gains 15 pounds as soon as you get there. It's that state. Hey, it is what it is. So I found my favorite salad place is here. So when I got to get my cheat meals here, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get my favorite salad, my favorite wings, and I'm gonna be good there. But pretty much all of my cheat meals have looked like that, and it was never a point where I felt like I overdone it at any point. So for me, what does overdone mean? Overdone means you still feel stuffed in the morning. Overdone means you feel kind of lethargic. Overdone means you just kind of like are blah. Like there have been times where like my past cheat meals, like the cheat meals I have now are real cute. Like they are, I mean, extremely moderate. It's like extremely moderate. So back in the day when I first got my coach, I never even had cheat meals prior to having my coach. Before it was like, you eat whatever you want the entire year. When you start prepping for a show, it would just immediately go no carbs. Immediately just go to that extreme you can. Do as much cardio as possible, lift as much as you could, and that was it. That was how preps were back in the day. With the newer generation, they've learned a lot more information on how to prep more healthily, which has been crucial for me in my longevity, because that back in the old school prepping day was a lot, but I will say it makes everything I do now makes it way easier. I will say this is nothing. Like there's no prep that can compare to when the last week of prep you're eating nothing but freaking frozen tilapia and grapefruit every day, like not even a veggie. So I'm like, this is chill. So I think that's gonna be a key thing. Dang, I forgot what I was saying. I lost my train of thought. Hold on, stick with me. We went over the food. I went over the changes. How it's easier now. Ooh. I don't remember. But I'm gonna circle back. Anyway, fast forward to cheats now. So the cheats have been way more refined, and so I think that since they were more refined for a longer period of time, more consistently than they've ever been in my entire career, I think that allowed me to, one, look better with them in, continue progressing with them in, because that's a key thing. If you're not progressing and the cheat meals are in, it's kind of like, but I was continuing to lose weight with the cheat meals in, so it was like, why not just keep them in the first place? So that's been a key thing for me and reason why I was able to keep them in for so long. And I think that's just been overarching like a lot of my growth process, and just making sure that when I'm including new habits, they're always for the betterment of my life. And the key thing too is, for everybody knows, I'm on the back end of my career, so everything I do now is preparing me for the days when I am not competing anymore, or I'm not training as hard. I had to, in my mind, come up with ways to be like, all right, you need to reel this in now, so that way when you retire and you don't have to do any of these things, I don't have to do them now, but when I really don't have to do any of these things, I still have that restraint to where I'm good at eating a certain amount, still happy living my life, still happy eating my super, super clean foods, and still just getting in the habit of portion control within reason for my body. So that's a large reason why I was like, okay, I'm open to allowing myself to kind of take after my husband and be like, all right, I can do less here, I can do less here. And then once that is rewarded, aka with more progress and more just overall better experience, then it's become very much a part of me to now where I'm like, I'll order that, but if I'm not finished eating, I don't need to finish eating. Like for me, like a lot of people when they post stuff on social media, they post it for the need for it to be liked, or to be like, oh, she gets to do this, she gets to do. I don't do that. If I don't finish it, I don't finish it. If I didn't eat it, I didn't eat it. It's not that big of a deal for me. So I think that's a key thing too that I always have to express. Like, oh, did you eat all that? If I did, I did. If I didn't, I didn't. But it's with me, if I posted it, I did it. I don't post for likes. I don't post for clicks. I don't post for none of that. Like, I don't post what I don't do and what I don't use. So I think once people get more comfortable with people who actually are realistic and keep it real on Instagram and social media, that is going to be less of a question as we go. All right, so we had a last cheat meal at 11 weeks. Let me get my notes. I went over that. Now the key thing too is when you're doing, since we're talking about weight, I'm gonna circle back. When you're doing, starting out a prep. So for me, let's say, so when I'm in improvement season, I'm doing cardio 20 minutes, max. And that's 4 times a week, okay? So when I get to prep, it's more so my coach and I like to do drop hammer preps is what I call them. So, so what that means is if I'm only doing 20 minutes of cardio 4 times a week the entire year, when I get into prep, he gonna drop the hammer, okay? And that's why a lot of my progress is so quick to other people, because it's just, my body is like going through like a period of shock where it's like, woo, all right, we gotta really get going, because you go from 20 minutes of cardio to an hour a day. That is a distinct difference. So for me now, range-wise, I'll do a minimum of 45 minutes of cardio a day to an hour 5 minutes a day. So it just really depends on the day. It kind of just switches. It goes up and down. There's no set time that I do it. So that alone makes everything so much more intense, because just the stress on the body is what elevates. So first we going in any prep, like I did my first check-in, I lost weight when I got here. That was before prep technically started. So when prep started, I said, all right, as usual, you already know you're going to gain some weight, because the inflammation, the stress on the body, and just the water you're going to just hold in general from increasing your workload so substantially. But again, I'm used to it. So when I see scale fluctuations, that's going to happen whether you were doing cardio or not. It's going to happen anyway, especially if you're a woman. Your hormones are going to just go like this anyway. So it's going to happen. So when I see them, like, all right, we knew. So probably shot up 2 pounds, and then I lost 2 pounds this week. So kind of that's just how it goes, because it's just your body just trying to really get acclimated to the new workload, the new sweat load, just the new stress and the strain on the system anyway. And so that's going to be a key thing that is different for me, because a lot of people, they do like large cardios year round. I'm not that girly. Like, I'm not it. I'm going to do my 20 minutes and get on. So that's been a big difference. And that's something that I always want to stress to everybody out there, that the weight will fluctuate. You gotta just rock with it, and like I said in the last video, as long as you're doing everything you're supposed to do, leave the reins to your coach. Let them think about, okay, is it water? Is it stress? Are you sleeping? They are supposed to ask those questions. You just be the athlete and do what you're told if you trust your coach. Okay, emphasis on if you trust your coach. For me, I'm able to just kind of like throw my hands up, hey, there's the weight. Now I know this is the weight because of A, B, C, and D. Now, when I do check-ins, if my period is coming, I say, all right, PMS started at this point. All right, slept was this way. So that way he has kind of more information to go off of when he is assessing what needs to be changed, or if nothing needs to be changed at all. So with this one, of course, we're not going to change our plans the first week or the second week. Like, we're going to rock out what we got going on, and then eventually my system will settle. Now, in the same breath, again, so I told you I started my Eva Burn Orange Sunrise. Delicious. So I started that one. Now what I found is, for me, because stimulants affect everybody differently. And so usually I've been using my liposide for like the last 5 years. So I want to go ahead and try my Eva Burn this year. And what I found is the amount of alertness you get from it is intense. And so it was to the point where I was so alert, and then one day I overshot my caffeine. I'm going to tell you where this can go wrong. Here we go, the trial and tribulations. I overshot my caffeine because I kind of eyeball it. My little scoop, I'm like, all right, let me make sure I'm doing a half. I thought I had done a half, and I did a little over half. Y'all, I was up for like 14 hours straight. My body said I didn't go to sleep until midnight here. I've been up since 5:30. And I was geeked, okay? So for those who love that feeling and like to be extremely alert, that's gonna be great. So for me, I knew, all right, I need to either take down my dosage or switch to the product that my system is more used to, which is my liposide, because you are alert. But what I found is with my liposide, I got even more food appetite control and better sweat. Energy was similar. Energy was pretty similar, but with my liposide, I do 1/5 of a scoop. So that's what I switched to. So originally, like I said, I was doing my Eva Burn half a scoop, and that got me almost too alert for what I needed. So I needed to drop it down, but I also wanted to just test out both and see in real time, compare which one I want to use throughout the rest of my prep. And so after I had that little caffeine bump, which again, then threw my sleep off, then caused me to grind my teeth because you get so kind of like anxious that you're just going, you're moving. So I started grinding my teeth, and that caused a whole bunch of other issues, neck pain, all that stuff. But once you kind of like take it down and mellow out and the caffeine gets out your system, you kind of get better with everything too. But again, it's always assessing your tolerance of what works for you. So for me, I found that my liposide is like my 1/5 scoop of liposide gets me throughout the day for right now. That'll of course change as fatigue starts to set in and prep actually gets going, and I get even further removed from my cheat meals, which of course your bigger refeeds. I still get my refeeds every week anyway, but it's a little bit different now when you're actually trying to like actively drop versus like kind of cruise, subtle drops. Now we're trying to get going. So that's the key thing I noticed. So with that, I said, okay, if I threw my caffeine off for a little bit, that's gonna throw my sleep score off for a little bit. That's gonna throw kind of just how the cycles of my sleep go in terms of your REM sleep and your deep sleep. Because what happened was, once I realized what was going on, I was like, okay, let me figure out how, like, let me learn more about caffeine. And so that's when I learned, I was like, okay, caffeine does A, B, C, and D. And I was like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and mellow out. I learned how long caffeine can stay in your system, 2 to 12 hours. Didn't know that. I was like, okay, that's crazy. But that's why when I had barely any sleep the night before, I was up and ready to go. So that Eva burn is for my girlies and my guys who really ready just to rumble at all times throughout the day. That one's for you. For y'all who don't like to be on the go too much, the liposide is, you gonna go, but it's like chill versus extra chill. Like they have their pros and just different things depending on what you like. So for me, I've discovered that I'm gonna stick to my liposide the most, because like I said, when my caffeine bumped up, I had to let that settle, so it's thrown my sleep off. So of course, when your sleep gets thrown off, weight gets thrown off. But even with the sleep and the being thrown off for the last few days, I still managed to lose the 2 pounds that I had gained from the first bit of prep. But that tells me then, it's like, all right, we already knew this is why the weight's gonna be what it is. Once your caffeine in your system settles, because it takes you, they say, 3 to 8 days to settle into your new caffeine dosage. Once it settles in the adenosine receptors in your brain, I know I'm getting real nerdy. Anyway, I told you I was researching. So once those receptors start accumulating a lot more, that'll allow me, my system to kind of chill out and sleep get a little bit better, back to more to the normal. So that's what I found so far. That was the first little hiccup, but it's always, like I said, it's always something. The years before was like the mosquitoes were attacking me. Before that, trap was flaring up. Before that, oh, it's the ankle. Before that, oh, it's a calf. Before that, it's a foot. Every single prep is something, and so every time something pops up, I'm like, okay, that's the trial for this year, and you move forward. But the key thing is the plan is the plan. You set the plan in, you don't overanalyze, do what you're supposed to do the research like I did if need be, so that you can understand what your system needs and why your body is responding the way it is, and just kind of just get the information, and then you move forward. So for me, I wasn't concerned about it. My coach wasn't concerned about it. We more so just wanted to make sure we got my dosage down to where my system was like, all right, I got a little extra energy that I need, but I don't want to be so revved up that I can't shut down throughout the night, so that my sleep is really restful and that I'm recovering how I want to recover. So that is a key thing that we noticed. So again, I switched over. Also within that first week, I did a lot of body work. So I had my body work on Sunday, I had my body work on Tuesday, I did my chiropractic appointment on Friday, and I did my dry needling on Saturday. So there's a lot of things I like to get in front of. And so what I learned a large part of, sorry, the Olympics about to run in a second, so I'm gonna hurry up. I learned a large part of being a elite athlete and an athlete who wants to remain as healthy as possible is being proactive, not reactive. So for me, if I know my scoliosis and my lordosis create certain issues, or I have certain muscular patterns that are always reoccurring, I make sure I get in front of them before anything flares up. So as soon as I get here and prep, I'm like, all right, get all the body work done, which also can cause inflammation because your body is releasing a lot of toxins that it wasn't releasing prior to that day. Because like I said, all body work is gonna be a little bit different. All body work technicians are gonna be a little bit different. So when you have your usual team that is getting in deep, getting in and releasing everything, all that stuff comes out of your muscles. So all the toxins that have been stuck in the muscles, all that comes out. So I knew all this was going to contribute to everything, but that's another reason why my coach has me come out earlier, because we know it usually takes me a solid 2 weeks to kind of like get in my groove. After 2 weeks, like for me now, I'm already acclimated to the weather. I'm good. I can walk outside. I'm chilling. But when that first week is a lot of switches. Second week, all right, we're in the thick of it now. By here on out, oh, we good to go. We good to go. We just gonna ride. And I think that's the key thing too, is mentally knowing. But it's also too, it comes with experience. I've had a lot of preps, so I've seen all of the things. So it's kind of just like, just keep pushing because you know it's gonna work out in the end. So that's the key thing that I've noticed. And go back to my notes. Went over that. I also noticed that too. Depending on the person, with the Evo burn, it does definitely increase your metabolism, but I found that I had more hunger pains when I was asleep when I was doing the Evo burn versus now when I'm doing the liposide. And so that's gonna be another thing too. So I think they're slightly different in terms of the amount of appetite suppression that comes within them. So always keep that in mind. So I'm thinking for me, what I'm seeing is, if you want to be extremely alert, on point, functioning, moving all day, because I didn't sit down the 7 days I was on it, I didn't sit down, I was moving, okay? If you want that, I would go more Evo burn. If you want, and fat burn. If you want fat burn, appetite suppression, and more sweat, I actually sweat more with the lipo side, which I was surprised than I did with the Evo burn. I sweat more with the lipo side. And so the energies are just a little bit different. Like this energy, you got the energy, you notice it. This one, I found that you notice it a little bit more, but you were just moving around. I was more mobile with the Evo burn. So it just depends on kind of like which route you want to go and which one you're most comfortable with. All right, so of course, once my cheat meals get pulled, that means my diet is changing, because now we have to assess how much nutrients we should be having from some whatever foods without having that cheat meal included in the thought process. So this is probably where the bulk of my changes start happening. Like when you pull my cheats, like it's gonna get real and it gets real pretty quickly. It's cool to watch, but it's also going through, like this week coming up, period starts this next week. So it's also a matter of continuing to focus on the work and recognizing that the scale may not say what you want to say again, because your hormones are fluctuating, especially when it comes to like PMS and those who have extremely strong ovulation symptoms. You kind of just want to just ride the wave on through. I always suggest that you take a ginger supplement. That's what I do, to make sure that way you're not cramping like most people do. For me, I found that I don't cramp at all. I haven't taken a pain medicine pill in almost 3 years now. So I found that that's been a huge difference. I think overall, my overall health and my hormones got so healthy to the point where I just didn't cramp. And that was before I started the ginger. When I started the ginger, it almost pushed my periods further up. So it used to be like 28 days, but now it's like a 25, which is usual for like my prep periods, because my periods regularly change from my prep periods. Like I said, y'all, we're gonna talk about these things. We're gonna talk about this is what y'all need to know, because we all, some men on here love y'all, but for my women, this is important for y'all to know too. Just so you're part of your journey and kind of how you can navigate periods and prep. Because it can be hard. It can be hard, because back in the day I used to have extremely bad cramps. So I know what that's like, and I know what it's like to continue showing up to practice, showing up to school, and making sure that I still got everything I was supposed to do done. So when it comes to bodybuilding preps, it's a matter of trying to make sure you're staying hydrated, making sure your foods look right around those times, and really staying organized in terms of how you're going to release as much stress as possible, and checking in and seeing what your symptoms are. So for me, my symptoms are pretty mild. I don't really have mood fluctuations anymore. The weight fluctuation, maybe 2 to 3 pounds max. Like max. That's about as high as I go, versus back in the day I used to go 10. Like I was like a whole completely other person when my period was even remotely getting close. In that same breath, it's cool to know too, because I've noticed that as my preps have gotten healthier and healthier, my period stays on but stays with me the entirety of my preps. Like for the last 2 or 3 Olympias, I've had my period right before the Olympia, go on stage. And like I said, what I've noticed is the healthier I am and the healthier the prep was, and by healthy I mean like my fats were like existent. Like some people, like they get 0 fat, that type of thing. So for me, if I pull my fats, my period goes. If my fats are still in any fashion, whether it's minimal or not, my body's like, oh yeah, baby, we're good to go. Like that's all I need. We're gonna ride out with that. We're good. And so that's what I found out these last couple of years. But it's also just been a journey, just in seeing kind of as I age what changes. And I think too, a large part of my preps change because of my age too, and my age in the sport. So this is year 18, as we talked about. But when I met my coach first, we started when I was 23 years old. I am 31, about to be 32. So the preps I had at 23 are not going to be the preps I have at 31. And I'm almost, I would say, healthier at 31 than I was at 23. Mentally, physically, everything is just better now than it was then. So that's been a large part of the reason why I've been able to do my preps the way I have and continue to progress throughout these last years. All right, let's see what else is for our updates, because Noah allows and I'm finna run. Ooh. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it, y'all. So yeah, to close out, I'm actually really excited about this prep. I keep my excitement kind of pretty chill just so I'm able to maintain and control my emotions to the best of my ability, and that allows me to focus so that I'm able to perform at my highest. So that's pretty much all the updates so far for this week. We will tune in again in another 2 weeks and see what we are doing, but so far, so good. Body will definitely mellow out within the next week. Once the period drops, everything kind of just, and then we start anew. And then next thing you know, we'll be even closer to showtime and ready to rock and roll. All right, y'all. Hope y'all learned something new again for this video. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.